All right. And welcome back. It's been a while, scheduling constraints, but welcome back to the Paisan Sports podcast. We're back again. It feels good to be back, presented by Recliner Media. Dante DePlacido joined as always by Zach Deal of What's the Deal Sports. So I've got to ask, what's the deal with this second half offense? And, they've been good in second halves other times this season. The Rams game, the best example. But I mean, more so this past week. I mean, it seems like once they get a lead, they just, not that the players stop trying, but play calling wise, they just stop trying. I don't know what's going on with that. What's the deal with this offensive line? Cam Jurgens, how on earth did he make a Pro Bowl? It seems like every week there's a clip of his defender just blowing right past him, and it's definitely making the lives of the offense a bit more difficult, never mind the play calling. And what's the deal with Josh Allen? I said I wasn't going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway because Josh Allen, you fumbled the ball. You didn't chase after it. Instead, you started pointing, crying for a penalty or pleading your case for throwing the ball. How about you recover the ball and then plead your case so that if you don't win that plea, then at least your team still has the ball. And then you also took a Carson Wentz-esque sack to knock your team out of field goal range, and you missed the final throw of the game that would have won it. What's the deal with that? Also, what's the deal with the second half offense and the offensive line?
Take a deep breath after that one. Man. Yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on in the second half with the offense. It seemed like they were up 13-0 for a very long period of time, and they kind of treated it as if they were up like 24-0, like they had
exactly.
Like a 3 or 4 possession lead, and they really took their foot off the brakes and
off the gas.
The same bread and butter that was obviously we talked about like them having identity issues like all season, not being able to run the ball or rush the passer. I think that their offensive line is just not as good as it used to be, to where they could just dominate in the trenches and just gain yards in the run game that way. And when they kind of go to it, I mean, we saw one time in the game, I think it was the 1 3rd down. It was like 3rd and 8, and they just ran the ball right up the middle, which kind of was just like it was all
with Will Shipley.
It was kind of like it was, and I get it. Kind of shows like you tip your cap to your defense because your defense is so good. But at the end of the day, you saw the Bills were able to get back into the game because
I mean, that's because the defense, not to give excuses to the defense, but they spent the entire second half on the field.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is defense in position, because they have to keep going out there and defend a short field, especially when you get caught in a back and forth field position game. I mean, they started that one drive where it was a 3 and out where they were inside like the 5-yard line and they had to punt back to the Bills, and then the ball was like punted and returned by Shakira, I think, to like the 37 or 38-yard line.
It's they had to
defend a short field like that, especially when Josh Allen's trying to pull out all the tricks. I mean, he didn't have the greatest game, but he was a big part of why they were in the game, but he was also made some mistakes that were glaring weaknesses. I thought the Eagles, I mean, it's just I don't understand what's going on with the offensive line. I mean, the Bills are notorious for, I think they've given up like 3 or 4 200-yard rushing games to different teams around the league, and they're one of the worst rush defenses in the entire NFL, and the Eagles just weren't able to exploit that with Saquon Barkley at all. So I don't really know exactly what's going on. I mean, you would think in those conditions that the game plan would be centered around getting 26 the ball, and that's what they looked like they were doing in the first half. And then they really just could not move the ball in the second half at all, and they weren't really moving the ball down the field. And Jalen Hurts completed like 1 or 2 passes the entire second half. So I
don't think he completed any at all. And I feel like a lot of people in the national media, first of all, the fact that Jalen Hurts was getting more national hate after that game than Josh Allen is just absurd. Everybody points to Jalen Hurts going, I think, 0 for 7 in the second half. Most of those incompletions were throwaways because he just had no one open and the pocket collapsed. One of them was the Devontae Smith catch that got overturned, which in my opinion, that looked like a catch. I can see how it was ruled not a catch, but I personally believe it was a catch. There was really only one like actual Jalen Hurts attempted to throw the ball and he missed his receiver. There was really only one pass of that in the second half. Everything else was just throwaways and an overturned catch. So it really, in my opinion, comes down to play calling and poor offensive line play.
Yeah, and their offensive line, like I talked about before, I felt like they're not the greatest pass protection offensive line. They really were centered around being good run blockers, and they just can't really get anything going. Cam Jurgens, it always seems like there's just like an unaccounted for somebody in the backfield always waiting to hit Saquon Barkley. But there's also times where there is holes open, and Saquon's kind of trying to bounce things around. It's just like a kind of off-balance thing. And Tank Bigsby is kind of more north and south, so sometimes when
Man,
he
I
gets
like
in there,
that
it
Tank
looks like
Bigsby. I like that Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
I like him so much to the point where when Saquon went down at one point in that game, I was watching it with my cousin. I said to him, well, we still have Tank Bigsby. Like, that's how much confidence I have in Bigsby that I
He's
feel
just a
like.
different type of runner, but I also think that the offensive line, it's not like they're like just getting in there when he gets in there and they're blocking better. He runs a little bit different, but
He
obviously
runs hard. That's the thing.
that's what makes Saquon
He is
Barkley special too as
decisive.
well. So
He finds the hole and he runs hard through it, and he picks up about 6 yards each time. I mean, he's really good. I think they need to utilize him more. Now, in talking
I
about the
think you're going
offense,
down the playoff stretch. I mean, everything's on the board, and especially they're going to need to probably utilize an RB2 like the good old days when they didn't have like a running quarterback necessarily, because Jalen Hurts doesn't really affect the defense this season specifically with his legs like he did in years prior. This is probably the least effective he's been with his legs over a complete season stretch of games is in his entire career, I would say.
yeah, well, talking about the playoffs, I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts use his legs a lot more in the playoffs. I think in the regular season, he's been toning it down to stay healthy. And I think once the playoffs roll around, I mean, Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy that he's going to do everything he needs to do in his power to win each playoff game. So I think we're going to see him run it more in the playoffs, in my opinion. But not to get too down on the offense, because we last did this podcast following the 3-game losing streak before any other wins followed after that. It's been a while. And when we did that podcast, although we were coming off of a loss, I said the play calling actually looked a lot better at the time, right? They were running a lot more plays under center. Now they should have done even more. But looking at
AJ
the
Brown's
game,
been has been like the number one receiver over like the last month of football. So that it seems like they have been able to pass the ball. They have 2 receivers. I know in today's NFL in 17 games, even though Devontae and AJ don't always play 17 games, 1,000 yards isn't the most, but they have Devontae knocking on the door for 1,000 yards and AJ just eclipsed it. So,
yeah, and then you
passing-wise, like,
also
they
have
do move the
Dallas
ball at
Goedert.
times, but the thing is, it's like it's in chunks, and then it just goes completely like a dry spell for a long period of time. Then it goes chunks again. Like there's just like it's like large sums of production in in certain games, and then in other games, or even certain halves. And then in other halves, like the Rams game, they had nothing going in the first half at all. And then magically in the second half, he goes off for 3 touchdown passes. And then exactly
Yeah,
what
and then
happened.
and
They
also
were passing the ball well in the rain in the beginning of the Bills game, and then it kind of just tailed off. Like he
and
wasn't having a bad game.
vice versa in the game against the Cowboys when they were up 21-0 and then completely blew it. But what I was getting to is, since we last did this podcast, they've won 3 games in a row now. And the 2 games before this one, the offense looked terrific and the play calling looked a lot better. I think Kevin, at this point,
Well, it's
I can
not really
say,
hard at all. We're not gonna,
yeah, no, I mean, listen, they're lesser opponents, but I'm not looking at the result of the plays. I'm looking at the plays that were called. I'm looking at the route charts following the games.
Well, the
right?
one thing that's been has been on notice, I think every Eagles fan, everybody tried to act like Dallas Goedert wasn't important to this offense, and you see how big of a part
He's
he is.
got 10 touchdowns this year.
With
He's a
them
huge part of
struggling,
the red
they
zone
can't.
offense, which, if I can
Well, they
finish
can't.
my
Let
thought
me
here,
finish what I was going to say,
well,
because
I
they
didn't get to
can't.
finish what I was going to say. What I was going to say was as much negative as you can say about Kevin Petullo, to say some positive things about him. He's shown flashes this year where he can call a very efficient offense, right? So that gives me some confidence going into the playoffs where it's like, okay, if we can see the Kevin Petullo we see in this game, that game, then we're in good shape, right? So there is some confidence there. And additionally, and going back to Dallas Goedert, his red zone play calling has been really good throughout the entire season. I mean, when they're goal to go, I think they only failed to cash in one time the entire season. And he really knows how to get the ball to Dallas Goedert in the red zone, who now has a career high 10 touchdowns and an Eagles franchise record by a tight end of 10 touchdowns.
Well, they're a good red zone efficient offense, but it's just hard for them to get down to the field because, I mean, we know what AJ and Devontae are able to do down the field in the passing game, but they just go really dry in the passing game at times. They actually pass the ball well from close inside the red zone. That's why Jalen has so many touchdown passes. And now, obviously, Dallas Goedert's been a part of a lot of that. So, but they can't run the ball inside the red zone either. So that's why they have been passing it besides like the tush push. So that's like what,
Well, that's another thing. The tush push has been highly ineffective this season. They've only converted on it, I think, 67% of the time. And it feels like half the time they get a false start penalty and they don't even actually end up running it. And it seems at this point I mean, there's been a lot of and one situations. I say and one because, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, goal to go from the 1 yard line. There's been a lot of and one situations where they haven't even used the tush push because it's just been pretty ineffective this year.
Well, teams are playing against it from other teams as well, and usually other teams like motion their tight ends like under center, and then he takes the snap, and it's like a 6'5", 250-pound dude. So defending it versus a guy like that, as opposed to Jalen Hurts, who's smaller, probably with the repetitions is what gets called up. But the Eagles currently sit as the 3 seed in the NFC right now. They have a chance to go up to the 2 seed if the Lions beat the Bears and the Eagles handle business and beat the Commanders. So that'll be something to look out for. Isn't it pretty crazy that 49ers are sneaking up on possibly being the 1 seed in the entire conference?
That is pretty nuts. And
I'm not really intimidated by them at all. I mean,
I'm not really intimidated. I'm not really intimidated by any team in not just the NFC, but the entire NFL. I don't think there's any one team that's like, wow, this team.
Yeah, but I'm not. But the way that I'm intimidated by the way that the Eagles' offense is playing. If they're going to play like,
well, that. No, I'm saying put the Eagles aside. Just looking at the NFL currently, as like let's say you're a fan of the Jaguars and you're looking at the NFL. It just doesn't look like there is one single team.
Yeah, but you can't lie to yourself and say that there's 2 teams that can go like the offense can completely have the cords ripped out of the outlet and just complete dryness, and that's probably the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like where the offense, no other team's offense at times looks the way that the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles.
I will say, a lot of the playoff teams, their offense looked really bad against the Eagles' defense. So
it's not the Eagles deep. Yeah, but you can't always trust the defense to go out there because they're going to have a lot.
Well, no, I'm saying other offenses have the capability of going completely dry because they've done it. We've seen it firsthand against the Eagles.
Yeah, defense. But we're talking about the Bears and the Eagles like do it on numerous occasions, regardless of opponent. Like the Eagles and Bears have done it versus numerous different teams, and then the Bears pull it out, the magic trick out of the hat, which I don't know if they can keep that going. But I do like the roster. It's pretty crazy. The receivers all have like 60-something catches or all have like mid-40s catches for 600 and something yards. There's like 4 different guys with mid-40 catches for 600 something yards on the Bears. So they spread the ball around, but their defense hasn't been completely healthy, but they have a good roster. So we'll see. But I mean, I trust the Eagles more than the Bears. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. I mean,
don't
the
see
Eagles
2
are
other
a team
teams.
The Eagles are a team that have been there before. They've been there twice. They've proven 2 different seasons in the past 4. I'll say 4 because this playoff hasn't happened yet. They've proven, so half the time they've been in the playoffs, they've proven they can run the
Yeah, I'll give
gauntlet
them
and get to the
the upper
Super
hand, but
Bowl.
I'm definitely
Whereas the Bears, they're a young new team. That's not a team you can necessarily trust in the playoffs. And I think you can say that as well about a team like the Seattle Seahawks. Can you trust Sam Darnold in the playoffs? I don't know. So, and that partially, and then there's other teams that they've shown you that you can't trust them in the playoffs, like the Buffalo Bills or the Detroit Lions. So there's a
well, the
lot of
Lions
teams in
aren't
the.
in the mix.
I'm sorry.
The Lions are eliminated.
Oh, whatever. But point is, there are teams they got eliminated. Really, I forgot all about that. But yeah, there are teams that just have a history
Yeah,
of
I mean,
failing in
but
the playoffs.
it's definitely I just don't want to go into the playoffs like beat up on the Commanders, whose their defense sucks too, and then you beat up on the Raiders, but like versus the Bills, we had serious issues in the second half. I just want to make sure that the offense looks good because they're obviously going to have to go the route. We know that they're going to have to play 4 games to win the Super Bowl if that's what it's going to take. And I know the defense. I trust the defense a lot, and I trust the players all in the offense. It's just this year we can't rely on like obviously every year it's like, oh, the offensive line is at least like the strong point, and then we have the skill position players to make the plays. We just have to like get on the same page. But this year it's like there's issues in every department of the offense. That's why it's like our star running back who came off like a ridiculous year last year doesn't have 1,000 yards rushing. You know what I mean? We're having issues in multiple different departments. So but I feel like they can make a more assertive effort to get the ball to Saquon Barkley because, Kevin Batula is trying to put his spell on the offense. And one way is just to get the ball regardless of how. I mean, you see these other teams that we don't really ever. I mean, we probably the least of any team in the league get the ball into our receivers' hands in like a running way, which isn't a bad thing. It's not like I think like a reverse.
Well, I think it's the Brian Johnson PTSD. I think it's the look at all the wide receiver screens that didn't work in 2023, and let's throw the ball
Well, I
down.
like that. It's a different offense. We had the guys we never have been good like under the Nick Sirianni regime with the screen pass game, and I always like when the offense flourishes. I mean, it's all the little stuff that like the Andy Reid childhood offense used to be able to flourish on, like having a good, really talented running back that's able to catch the ball in the backfield and run the ball, which we have a guy that can do that. I mean, he had 91 catches as a rookie. He's able to do those things. I mean, we could get the ball in more creative ways also with our receivers. The screen
One
game
thing,
was a huge part of the Eagles' offense growing up, and that just hasn't been really too relevant. But also, while we talked about the Eagles being the 3 seed and possibly going up to the 2 seed and what it would take to go up to the 2 seed, and then we mentioned the 49ers are possibly going to get the 1 seed if they beat Seattle on Saturday night. So what do you think about that game real quickly if we want to just like go off topic because that's going to be for the 1 seed. So that team will be ranked above the Eagles. So the
where's that game being played?
I'm almost sure. I want to say Seattle.
Well, while you look that up, one thing I did want to.
No, it's in San Francisco.
Okay, then I got my money on San Francisco.
It's a 1.9.
They're picking up steam, and the only way I would put my money on Seattle is if they had the advantage of CenturyLink Field. So, with that being said, I got my money on San Francisco, but that's a team that doesn't scare me in the playoffs either. I mean, we've dominated them in the playoffs.
That's just a team that's like, regardless of how they come at you, they are kind of scary because like I'm not a Brock Purdy fan by any means, but the one thing about him is like he'll throw a pick 6 on the first play of the game and then he'll come back and throw for like 3 touchdowns though because he has really good skill position players and he is a decent quarterback. It's not like he's horrible. He's just
I listen. In like 2022,
he's turnover prone though. That's the one thing
about.
Well,
hold on. In 2022, if you would have asked me, I would have said Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback, and he just looks good because of the offense he's surrounded with. Now, I'm going to say Brock Purdy's a pretty good quarterback. I actually think he's very good. I'm not scared of them. I want to talk about what our expectations are for the Eagles in the playoffs. And one thing I want to say is I have so much confidence in this defense that even with the worries with the offense, I think we have that level of defense that even if the offense struggles a bit in the playoffs, I think our defense can dominate to the point where we can still get tough wins. I mean, you look at teams in
Yeah,
the
but does it
past.
scare you that like we don't have the threat like before? I felt like even with the DeAndre Swift, we had the threat of like a big run play at any moment in time, and I guess maybe Tank Bigsby offers that a little bit more than Saquon at the current moment. But it's not like the threat of like last year. Like I mean, Saquon scores how many touchdowns in the fourth quarter of the Rams game and the snow game, and they're still fighting on the last drive and playing a defensive
Yeah, but
possession.
I think this is a better defense than last season. I think from what we've seen from this defense the past really ever since the deadline. And ever since
They're
Adoree
brutal.
Jackson started playing a lot better, to the point. By the way, he's looked better and better each week. At this point, I'm going to say Adoree Jackson is a shutdown corner. There is nobody to throw to in this secondary. The D line, they're all eating at this point.
Well,
Jalen Carter is
Reed Blankenship makes mistakes in coverage, like not
sometimes, but he
often,
also
but
makes
on
big plays,
occasions,
and he made a
definitely.
big play on Sunday.
Marcus Epps was also all over the field. Saturday.
Marcus Epps is looking good. Jalen Carter is back to form. Jordan Davis, he's back on the field, and he was having a phenomenal year before he got hurt. Brandon Graham has looked good in recent weeks after returning to the Eagles.
Well, he's also playing like very limited. Like
Jacoby Dean, before he got hurt, was playing out of his
Brandon
mind.
Graham only has to
And
worry about
Jahad
giving
Campbell
like
is
three.
one hell of a backup. This is a defense with a lot of depth as well. Zach Bond is still Zach Bond. I think this is an elite
Well, I
defense.
also
this
think
is a
that
defense
Brandon
that can
Graham
carry
also
the team.
just only having to play like a certain amount of snaps, so it definitely helps him out. And that's all they really need.
Yeah,
him to
Brandon
do
Graham is
besides Jalen
fresh
Phillips.
legs out there. So I have
I mean, you didn't
confidence.
even mention the best player on the defense, arguably. I mean, because he's might be the most impactful because the way that he plays is Jalix Hunt.
Well, I was thinking Q, but Jalix Hunt also he's been playing out of his mind. By the way, Moro Ojomo now has 6 sacks on the season.
Jalix
I
Hunt
think
and Moro Jomer lead the team in sacks.
I'm ready to say Moro Ojomo is even better than Milton Williams, and we were discussing in the offseason.
Mel Williams also has had a pretty good year for the Patriots.
He has. But in terms of what they've done as an Eagle, I'm taking Moro Ojomo. I mean, that's the guy we talked about in the offseason.
What's his name's also balling too. I mean, they were worth the bread. They lived up to the first year of their
Jalen Phillips. Is that who you're talking about?
Sweat. No, Josh Sweat should have been probably made the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, but Jalen Phillips has
sacks.
been very good.
Yeah, he's a really good run defender. He like doesn't get like necessarily home, but he creates turnovers against the quarterback in passing situations.
Yeah.
He's done that a couple times this year. He doesn't necessarily have the complete sack.
The only guy who's been rather quiet on the D line, I would say, is Nolan Smith.
Well, that's also I was going to ask like a long-term question. It looks like right now I'm paying Jalix Hunt over Nolan Smith every single day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing the same thing. But what I wanted to say is I have confidence in this offense in the playoffs because I think the playoffs are a different animal. I think they're going to look better in the playoffs because I think this is the kind of team that is going to look better in the playoffs because they've just proven they can do it in the past. Jalen Hurts is the kind of quarterback that, he's going to win at all costs. So, and as a lot of us know,
Jalen Hurts will start calling his own plays, honestly.
That's what I was about to say. As a lot of us know, he does have a bit of a habit to do that. And I think in the playoffs, when it's like it's win or go home, he's going to say, fuck it, and start calling.
I don't think anybody on the offense, if you call a play like at the end of the game and you kind of improvise, I don't think anybody, I mean, you're probably not going to go to Saquon because it's going to be a passing situation, but I don't think anybody on the offense or even the coordinators themselves will be necessarily mad if they take a shot to Devontae or A.J. Brown in one of those situations. Just the ball has to go to one of them. I mean, Dallas Goedert gets open too. Like that's another match. Like Dallas Goedert's that good.
Yeah, he is. And so listen, I want to ask you a question, but first to summarize, I think even if the offense struggles, this is the kind of defense that can carry a team in the playoffs. But I have confidence the offense is not going to struggle, and I have full confidence the defense is going to keep bowling out. So for my expectations for the Eagles in the playoffs, I think this is a team that can return to the Super Bowl. And
Do
when
you
you
think
look at,
they're holding on to things that they haven't shown yet specifically? Like they're like, I mean, I don't personally think
I
that.
think they could
I
be.
think there is like something slowing down a little bit with Jalen Hurts in the running department with his legs. I don't think it's necessarily full on. He doesn't want to use his legs. I just don't believe that because he knows how good of a threat he is. I don't know if his like
Well, he's
high
looked
ankle
good
sprain.
when he's ran the ball this year. I don't think he can't use his legs.
He just doesn't look to do it as often, and like when he struggles in the passing department, I feel like that's where he used to do that, and he's not making up for the void of when they're struggling in the passing game to use his legs to combat it. So that's what kind of tricks me. But I mean, I don't know if they're using some different type, holding some I don't even know. Like I don't know what they would be trying to hold aces up their sleeve because they kind of made it a little bit sketchy for the end of the season. But they're in a good position now. But the offense, I mean, at the end of the day, I always lean towards the offense being able to get it done because of the players that they have and being able to
Yeah.
do it before. But you can't just keep saying like, oh, I think they're going to show up in the playoffs when they have really big dry spells at times. And like their defense can make other offenses look dry at times. But I mean, those offenses, there's a lot of good offenses in the NFL right now. There's a lot of talented players. There's a lot of good
There is,
offenses.
but there's a lot of good offenses that this defense has made look silly this year. I think this is a truly elite defense.
Okay, we can
I
keep going
think
back to that, but we're not going to trust the defense to just go shut down every single opponent because that's not how it goes. I mean, I remember by experience when I was, rooting for Joe Flacco to win his first Super Bowl, they had four of the greatest defensive players of all time on their defense, and they were allowing 38 points every single time, and I was bugging every
I'm
single
not
time.
listen, I'm not saying I'd be shocked if this defense doesn't shut down everybody in the playoffs. No, it is the playoffs. I understand that. But I'm saying this is an elite defense that has the capabilities of shutting down elite offenses, and this is an offense that has the capabilities of putting up a lot of points. This is a team as a whole that has the capabilities of beating all of the top tier teams,
Yeah,
especially in the
100%. I mean,
playoffs.
that's just how a lot of the teams in the NFC, I think it's a pretty even matched way when you look at it from either side of it. And, I'll put my money
Yeah,
on
but
the Eagles
only
every time,
one of
but
these NFC teams has proven in recent years that they're capable of getting it done on the biggest stage. I mean, who was the last NFC team that won the Super Bowl besides the Eagles? I mean, it's been
I mean, Matt Stafford has done it and they have a really good roster.
and that was a while ago. And that was with the Triple Crown winning Cooper Cup.
Puka Nacua is better than Cooper Kupp ever was.
Puka
Guaranteed.
Nacua is pretty good. I will give you that. And so is Kyron Williams.
Devontae Adams is better than Puka.
But that's also a Rams team that this Eagles team has beaten 3 times in a row.
I know, but we took one. That's a game that's hard to grade, though. Like, I love that win. That's one of the best wins in the franchise history. But it's also a game where, I mean, it's just mass hysteria, and it just comes down to a blocked kick at the end of the game. And I mean, they blocked a kick yesterday too. And I'll always put my money on the Eagles, but I think the Rams are the team that I keep envisioning that's going to give like it that it would probably come down to where that would be the top.
Listen, if
That's why it's important because the Rams right now.
That's a game that can
You know what
come down
seed
to
the
the final
Rams are
play,
currently?
but I have confidence in the Eagles beating them. What's that?
You know what seed the Rams are currently?
Are they? They're not still the 1 seed, are they? No.
No, we just talked about the Seattle and the 40. We just spent time talking.
I know. I'm just saying. I know they're not the 1 seed anymore.
Yeah, so they're the 6 seed. So the Eagles will play them in the first round. So that's not ideal. And at the link, it's ideal, but
and it would be at the link. But we still have a chance at the 2 seed. The other thing I wanted to say is
I don't care about
excluding 1980 because we weren't around in 1980. But when you look at all the Eagles teams that have made the Super Bowl and you look at, what their chances were of returning to the Super Bowl the following year, I think this is the best chance they've had at returning the following year. 2023 was a disaster at the end. 2018, it took them catching lightning in the ball at the end of the year to make it to the playoffs, and then lightning in a bottle against the Bears to win that game. And 2005 was just a mess with the whole Donovan McNabb why am I blanking on his name? Terrell Owens situation. So I think this is the best chance they've had at returning to the Super Bowl the following year that they've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, some of the heavyweights have been eliminated too, so they won't have to play the Chiefs again, who are a wild card. They also were a team where they could go completely sporadically dry and then appear out of nowhere, and obviously had the pedigree of being champions. So we'll see who comes out of the AFC, the NFC. I mean, if we're gonna break it down, like the Rams obviously are the team that I'm gonna pull up the playoff picture bracket right now. So the 49ers are the 5 seed. They could be the 1 seed if they beat Seattle week 18. That would push Seattle back to the 5 seed. So Seattle would match up with the winner of the NFC South. What do we think about that game real quickly? Who do we think is coming out of the shitty NFC South? Because that's a team that gives the Eagles trouble too. Like the Bucks can get healthy and on point. I mean, I think their defense is horrible right now, and they have a defensive-minded coach. I think if they lose this game, Todd Bowles is probably out as their coach. But who do you think wins? Because weren't you were kind of a Bryce Young guy a little bit, weren't you?
No. No, I think I drafted him in fantasy going into his second year because I thought he could maybe take that second year leap that we've seen a lot of quarterbacks take. But I've never been like, oh yeah, Bryce Young.
He's not a bad player. He makes plays
No,
in
he's
big
not.
moments, and that receiver that they drafted, Tedero McMillan from Arizona, is an absolute beast. So their roster's good. Their defense is pretty good too. They have Joe Horn's son. They have what's his name on the defensive line as well, Derek Brown Jr. They're getting contributions from numerous different people. And I feel like they're a team that's kind of scary, but like, can the Bucks really play down their competition and not win the NFC South? I mean, then the Bucks will win the NFC South if they win Week 18 with an 8-9 record. But at the end of the day, I mean, Mike Evans is getting healthy. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. But what do you think about that game?
Yeah. Sorry, I had an important text that came through. Which game is that again?
Bucks, Panthers.
Bucks Panthers. Where is it being played?
I have the playoff picture up, not the game though. Bucks, Panthers. Where is that game at? That is in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I don't know. The Bucks have. I don't know. That's a tough one.
You know the Bucks record since the last 8 games, I think it is 1-7.
They haven't been that great, have they?
1-7 in the past 8 games.
I didn't know it was that bad. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad. I think I'm leaning Panthers. They've been in a tailspin. And what's crazy? Speaking of teams that are 1-8-ish, what's crazy is that Sauce Gardner left the 1-6 Jets.
Philip Rivers came out of retirement for the benefits. He locked in those benefits, so good for him. And then Jonathan Taylor kind of sucked that he completely flared out as the MVP of the league. Christian McCaffrey's actually embarking on possibly the first 1,000-yard receiving and 1,000-yard rushing season in NFL history, which would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, it is now time for my meatball of the week. And my meatballs of the week, but like it's also like one meatball of the week because it's anyway, the meatball of the week is the Diggs brothers. You see what I mean? It's like, it's like one subject.
Digs at the Diggs brothers.
It's not like 3 various different meatballs. It's the Diggs brothers, but it's 2 different guys, 2 different meatballs. Just two balls. But I mean, first, Stephon Diggs, assault, not good. What was his girlfriend? Very bad.
No,
And then
Chef.
And then Trayvon Diggs gets cut from the Cowboys. So not a good week for the Diggs brothers. They're my meatballs of the week.
It was a chef that not his girlfriend.
Why did I hear it was a girlfriend? I don't know. But either way, he
I don't know if
committed
you read the
assault.
story. I always read the story, so anytime I want to bring up somebody. But yeah, that's pretty funny that Trevon Diggs, was cut. Everybody talked about him, him and Deron Bland picking off passes and them intercepting the ball, but not actually being good cornerbacks in general because they're only good in zone coverage, but they get cooked in man coverage. But yeah, the Cowboys were getting a lot of hype. What the NFL page on Christmas was posting them like crazy. Like it was a huge important win. I mean, everyone's so excited, for them to be scoring these touchdowns and ruining their draft position. But hey, so be it. I don't actually know if I forget if they traded their pick or if it was the Packers pick in the trade for Quinn and Williams. But they also the Cowboys benched that Peyton Wilson dude that they traded for that they were getting hyped up about. And they traded for him after they traded for Kenneth Murray Jr. from a first-round pick in the offseason who did nothing. They cut the other corner that they traded for in the offseason, Khair Alam, from the Bills. And I saw Jonathan Mingo on the field the other day versus the Commanders, but that was also a guy that they spent a high draft pick on. I think that was the same pick they spent on George Pickens as the pick that they used to trade for Jonathan Mingo. So Jerry's still doing his thing over there. And then the Eagles got contributions from Jalix Hunt and Moro Jomo on the back end of their draft. So just a little – I don't know why I had to go on that rant a little bit. But
well, you know what? Basketball. Going back to what you said, I love it. I love it when the Cowboys get eliminated from the playoffs and then start winning games again. Granted, it was one game they won. But
I'll never bet on them to win ever. I don't care who they're playing and what the opponent is. Or there's.
Well, what I'm saying is they missed the playoffs, and now they won their last game, which gives them lesser of a draft position. I mean, this is kind of how it played out last year, where they missed the playoffs and finished with a mediocre record and had a mediocre selection in the draft. And I hope that continues. I don't want to see the Cowboys ever have like a 2-win season and get a top 3 pick. I like them missing the playoffs, but being middle of the pack and getting a mid-first round pick.
I don't think they'll ever allow a coach to finish the season get out of a season with 2 wins. Like they would definitely fire them, and that would be the standard for. That's one thing I guess I don't even know if I'm tipping my cap to that, but I will say Jerry Jones won't allow them to be that bottom basement bad. They don't really ever.
But you know what? That's a good thing, though. That is a good thing because an owner that allows his team to be bottom of the barrel, that means that's an owner that will tank to improve the roster.
Who else does that? Who else does that? What other team does that?
To become a great team when you're stuck in mediocrity.
What other team does that?
The Cowboys continue to stay stuck in mediocrity.
What other team does that too? It's like they're like the AFC version of the Cowboys. They've had more success in the 2000s because they've actually won Super Bowls, but the Pittsburgh Steelers do the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
They never go bottom basement bad, and then they just be mediocre, and then look at their quarterback situation every single year.
Because they never have the draft capital to select an elite talent at quarterback. So they're stuck, going after guys like Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers, who, an old Aaron Rodgers at that. Going back to Mason Rudolph, I feel like that happened at some point, didn't it?
Yeah.
So let's
talk some basketball though. The Thunder, real quickly, before we get into the Sixers, the Thunder were hyped up to be arguably the best team of all time. And then the Spurs came in and just beat them 3 times in 12 days and just shut them completely down. And now the Spurs might be the new dynasty. But the Sixers also were in that realm of, remember we talked about around the draft how the Mavericks, the Spurs, and the Sixers all drafting in the top 3 of the draft all already had good players on their roster, so they just weren't healthy. So when they all put it together that they could be good teams, I mean, the Mavericks are kind of a mess because Anthony Davis is, complete glass bones, but the Spurs look like a really good team, and the Sixers could develop into a good team. But should we start to get worried real quickly? I want to talk about as the first topic, Jared McCain, like, is there an issue with him actually being a scorer? Is he not actually finding his way? Is there too many scorers on the team? Like, he's having issues finding points production, even with Kelly Oubre injured. So imagine what's going to happen when Kelly Oubre gets back into the lineup. And you know what happens with young guys that kind of just don't have a true path to develop. What do you think's going on with the Jared McCain situation?
I think it's one of those situations where, I mean, sometimes you see it in pro sports. Somebody comes back from injury and it takes them a while to get back to form. We even kind of talked about a similar case earlier when talking about the Eagles, that being Jalen Carter. Although, wait, did he get? No, he didn't get injured, did he?
Jalen Carter had the shoulder injury. He just got
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
playing
So
a
I'm
lot
not
better.
mistaken.
So.
So I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's just one of those situations where it's like give him more time before we start to get worried about him. He's been back for like a few weeks, So I would want to give him more time than that to see if he can return back to form. The thing with the Sixers team is there's so many different guys to talk about, and it
They're
does
sitting at
kind
like fifth in the East, and the trade deadline's coming up in a couple months. And Jared McCain would be like an attractive player to like a lot of different teams, and they could probably get I mean, honestly, you could probably get you might be able to get. I don't know if you would probably have to package it, but you might be able to get like a Jeremy Grant back onto the Sixers for Jared McCain because of the youthfulness and like his potential as a scorer, like
there.
that level, like power forward, and that would be something that would be intriguing. I really like Jared McCain though, because at the end of the day, when these Paul George and Joel Embiid contracts go up, we don't really know what's going on with Quentin Grimes as well, who's on the $8.7 million deal, and we're not going to be able to keep his services that cheap for that long. I feel like when the sea parts its ways a little bit, Jared McCain could be very useful to the future. But it just seems like right now they sent him down to the G League to get more playing time and more opportunities with the ball, and then they brought him back because of injuries. But I don't know if that's like the true route to go for him, but it seems like he's too talented for that route as well.
Well, here's the thing. Jared McCain, as much as I like him, as much as I like his potential, his upside, what he did last season, this roster is so littered with talent that, it's like, I feel like you got to trade somebody at the deadline. We have so many talented
Well, doesn't it make the
guards.
most sense? I like Quentin Grimes a lot, and he could be a part of the future too, but he's on that expiring deal. Doesn't it make the most sense to get rid of him?
No, I'd rather keep him around. I think.
Well,
I
you
think.
keep him for the rest of the season and then just not re-sign him? Because
No,
you'd
I
be
mean
trading
keep him
away a
as
rookie contract.
in re-sign him.
That's also the thing that would make it difficult to actually talking about the Jeremy Grant situation. That could actually not very true at all, because Jared McCain, his contract would nowhere be in the range to be able to make that trade with Jeremy Grant. It would take like somebody that makes a little bit more money.
Listen, in terms of trading guys away, depending on the return, I wouldn't be upset with trading Grimes, McCain, or Oubre. And I say depending on the return, because I wouldn't want to see Grimes go unless we got something really good for him, because Quentin Grimes,
You're getting more for Quentin Grimes than Kelly Oubre.
But that's the thing. If you get rid of Grimes, you can possibly look for Jared McCain to replace that role. So, or you could just trade Jared McCain. But the only thing is Jared McCain is so young, and it's a guy that can grow with Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. But I feel like one of these guys should get moved at the deadline. And that's in terms of moving, in terms of trading away talent. In terms of acquiring talent, there is only one man who I want on this Sixers roster who, unironically, I truly believe can improve this team by a decent margin. And that man is you're not going to have to trade for him. He's not going to cost a big contract. I am talking about Benjamin Simmons. I want him back in a Sixers uniform. I've talked about the past 3 years how this team needs a power forward that can rebound the basketball. Ben Simmons, he brings that. He also brings great defense. He brings an ability to facilitate. If you put everything aside, put the drama aside, put the lack of shooting aside because you don't need him to score the basketball. If you put Ben Simmons, a tall 6'10" power forward who can rebound, dish the basketball, play defense, that prototype of player is exactly what is missing from this Philadelphia 76ers team. I want Ben Simmons. I want him back in a Sixers uniform. I won't entertain anyone else. I mean, obviously I will, but I'm dead set on Ben Simmons.
No, I don't think it's realistic. I don't think he's
I think it is. He's talked about how he wants to come back to the Sixers once he's ready, once he's done fishing or whatever the hell he's up to. I mean, he's back in the gym. We saw it today. He's back in the gym working on his shot.
Oh, so you got scammed on another Ben Simmons.
No. I've been saying this long before the workout.
Wait, no. We're going into 2026.
I've been saying this all season.
I've been saying
it all season. I have text to prove it. I've been saying all season, I want Ben Simmons unironically. Forget the gym video. The gym videos mean nothing to me. I'm just saying he's done with his little fishing journey. He's done with his fishing journey. He's ready to get back on the court soon, and I want him at the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
All right, well, that's just not really that realistic, but if it does happen, cool. But I'll believe it when I see it. But I mean, he'll give you 5 rebounds, like 2 points, and a couple assists. It could be pretty cool. But I'll probably look into more genuine routes to fill the void at the power forward position, and you could use one of those young players or one of those contracts. I mean, what if they traded Quentin Grimes, Jared McCain, Kelly Oubre, and first round picks and Paul George for Giannis? You would do that for Giannis. Giannis is a beast. I
wouldn't give all of that up for any one player. That's too much to give up for one single player. I wouldn't do that. I
don't think that's too much at all. I think that's actually I think you overvalue.
In terms of capital, maybe, but what I'm saying is then it's just Tyrese Maxey and Giannis at that point. So what are we even doing?
I didn't say Joel Embiid. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but Joel Embiid isn't a guy at this point that you can consistently rely on. And then the only 2 guys on the roster you can consistently rely on is Maxey and Giannis. You've gotten rid of everyone else. So I wouldn't do that. I would give up I would do like a Paul George and one of Grimes, Oubre, McCain, as well as however many draft picks they want, because then you still have
giving you anything right now
surrounding them. But I wouldn't give up the entire roster for one guy. And now you've gone from, a team that just needs one player to a team that now has that one player, but now you need everything else again. So that just feels like taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
I think they would be so good on defense if they did that, but that kind of obviously is
that's just one great defender. You've gotten rid of everyone else. I
forget VJ Edgecombe's on the. I forgot.
You got VJ. I don't like that trade. I would give them 10 draft picks and the two players that I mentioned before I give up so many players that now you're depth.
I don't know. They draft pretty well, so I don't know if I would do that.
But no, I wouldn't do that. But no, because we're also talking about giving them draft picks as well. So now you have no draft capital, no money, nothing. You're just stuck with Maxey, Edgecombe, and Giannis with no supporting cast.
What about Kyle Kuzma as a 4?
I would like to bring in Kyle Kuzma as a 4. I would love. A guy I've been wanting this whole time has been Larry Markkinen. I mean, that has been like my ideal guy.
Well, that you're gonna have to give up a lot for him because he's one of the better players in the NBA.
Yeah, no, I'd give up a lot for him, but I mean, like I mentioned, I'm not giving up the entire supporting cast of the roster.
To make any big deal for the Sixers, they would have to give up Joel Embiid or Paul George contract.
That's what I'm saying. I'll give up Paul George. I'm not giving up the entire supporting
Paul George has played pretty well, honestly. I mean, not up to his contract.
But I would definitely put him in a trade for Giannis. You just said you would do that. Now, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Giannis and Larry Markkinen are 2 different tiers of players. Larry Markkinen is a great player. Giannis is like one of the greatest players of all time.
And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't mind giving up a ton of capital to get him, but I'm not giving up the entire supporting cast, because then what's the point? When you have a great nucleus of elite talent, you need a great supporting cast around them. So to give up the supporting cast to get them on the roster, it just feels like taking one step forward and two steps back. And you could make the argument saying, well, it's harder to get the elite talent, so bring in the elite talent and then get the supporting cast, which 5 years ago, I would have agreed with that. But I've seen this team multiple times give up a supporting cast to bring in elite talent and then fail to bring in a new supporting cast. I saw it when they brought in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. I saw it when they brought in James Harden.
They have a lot more depth in this situation than they've had in years past to like make those trades like actually feel fun. That's
when we're talking about getting rid of that depth is my point.
For what we're talking about unloading for, like, that's like a massive trade you make for one of the three best players in the entire NBA. That's what we're
and I think that type of move is a mistake, because I think in the NBA you need to have a great supporting cast. I don't like the idea of
I would trade Quentin Grimes, Jared McCain, and Paul George and multiple first round picks for Giannis guaranteed, and I think everybody would.
Wait, say that again.
I would trade Jared McCain, Paul George, and Quentin Grimes and first round picks for Giannis guaranteed. And I think the Sixers would do in a heartbeat if they got asked, if they wanted to do that.
I mean,
and if like you were tripping about Kelly Oubre getting thrown in,
yeah, you also included Kelly Oubre in that originally.
But it's Kelly Oubre, bro. Like, bro,
yeah,
there's literally five.
That's four significant role players now.
You don't watch enough of the NBA to know there's like 5'10" dudes that are a little bit taller than us that are undrafted, dropping 20 points a night for like the Dallas Mavericks right now in the NBA.
I've watched enough of the NBA to see when teams have given up a ton for a star player and it not panning out. I mean, look at the
haven't even talked about you.
Look at the Phoenix Suns when they were like a perennial finals contender for a few years, and then they gave up everything to bring in Kevin Durant. And then they did that again to bring in Bradley Beal. And how did that?
Well, the Bradley Beal's what did
not well at all. That panned out very poorly.
The Bradley Beal is what did them in. They gave him the contracts, what did them in. But they really traded an old Chris Paul to get Bradley Beal, who was actually good at the time. But it was the contract and the no trade clause that really did them in. It's the stipulations.
I just don't like the idea, just in general, of giving up almost your entire roster to bring in one star player. I think it just doesn't typically work in the NBA. I think I more so value a team that meshes well together, that is well constructed. I think that brings more success than just jamming stars onto a roster.
I think they need to figure out something though, because they have different. I think they need to figure out something though, because they have like so many different people and so many different timelines. That's what like the issue.
But that's what I mean. That's why, like, I think the best course of action, like I said, I think this is a team that's too guard heavy. There's a plethora of great talent at the guard position. You don't need all of that. What you do need is a significant power forward. That's why I think the best course of action is to trade one, maybe two of those guys to bring in somebody significant at the power forward position. I think that would create a perfectly constructed roster. I don't think right now it's a perfectly constructed roster. I think a deal needs to be made, or bring in Ben Simmons. I'm still serious about that. But don't give up everybody for one power forward, and then you go from, oh, we have everything, we just need a power forward, to, oh, now we have that power forward, but now we need everything else. That's I'm
not arguing the trade. I really don't care. I'm not trying to. I really don't care. I just said it for fun. You're kind of looking into it a little bit too much. I'm just, you're thinking about it too lightly, to where like you get offered one of the greatest players of all time and you have to give up 4 like you make it sound like Kelly Oubre is like this world breaker. Like you can't just go.
No,
find
I'm not saying that to
Justin
overhype
Edwards.
the guys
Justin
we
Edwards. If
currently
Justin
have.
Edwards got time,
I've said my whole point multiple times. It's just that I don't want to give up the entire supporting cast because that's taking two
cool.
steps.
But it's just like those
forward.
players aren't really that. The players
But you're just grabbing a statement out of the air that not necessarily a statement, but a take out of the air that just isn't even there. Like I never said, no, I don't want to trade these guys because I think they're really, really good and I don't want to lose them. I never said anything of those.
You said and Kelly Oubre, like we have
Justin because that's just another body on the roster that now we're giving away. Whereas if we kept Kelly Oubre, we could say, well, we gave up a significant part of our supporting cast, but we still have VJ Edgecombe, we still have Kelly Oubre, we still have Bona, depending on how you feel about him.
He was
whereas when you get rid of Kelly Oubre, now it's just okay. Well, we just got
now you are getting overwhelmed by Kelly Oubre.
No, I would say the same thing if you swapped out the name of Kelly Oubre with the name of any of the other guys you mentioned. Then my point is not specific to one player. My point is all of them as a whole. I'm not getting rid of all of them. It's not because of one specific
Justin Edwards
guy
doesn't even play.
Other.
Justin Edwards doesn't even play every night. Like he could be. He could fill the Kelly Oubre role if he got more development.
I don't have confidence in Justin Edwards.
He doesn't consistently play enough to be graded out, but I mean, like you can always
he doesn't consistently play enough for a reason, in my opinion. I don't think he's that good. I'm not relying on Justin Edwards to be one of my role players in the playoffs. That's the exact kind of situation I'm looking to avoid. Then it's just the 2018 to 2019 Sixers again, where it's like you had that great starting five, and then the guys off the bench you had were James Ennis and Mike Scott and whoever their backup.
Mike Scott had a game-winning shot in the playoffs for us. What do you mean?
That's one shot. That's one shot. It's not. He was a good role player, but he wasn't.
Name other players that have made big shot. Like Marco Bellinelli had a game-winning shot for them too.
And are we to act like Marco Bellinelli is a great role player? He did very good shooting the three.
Bro, you have Giannis on the team. I don't care about arguing about it. I really don't care.
But that's what I mean. This is a situation where
you said you're saying you're worried about the playoffs.
We could have said a few years ago. We don't have a great supporting cast, but we have James Harden. How did that work out? We could have said we don't have a great supporting cast, but we have Jimmy Butler. How did that work out?
So Giannis in the playoffs, he would be playing like 42 minutes a game.
And I heard the similar argument about how many minutes a game Ben Simmons would have been playing in 2018, 2019 about James Harden in the playoffs.
Ben Simmons has never sniffed the level of how good Giannis is.
But my point is, I've heard all the arguments before about why it's good to have a great nucleus and you don't need a great supporting cast. I've heard it all before. I've heard, well, the starters are going to play more minutes in the playoffs. I've heard, you're going to add a better supporting cast down the line. And all roads have led to a second round exit. That's where all roads have led to. So I've seen it all before. I've heard it all before, and I'm not sold on the idea.
Okay. I was just bringing it up as, that's just like a possibility if they wanted to get a big star. You still would like to get Lauri Markkanen, which is kind of just, hypocritical statement if you don't want to go out and like.
Well, no, I said, I would give up two guys and a first.
Well, you would just get outbid.
For Lauri Markkanen. Losing one player or two is not getting rid of your entire supporting.
You're just not going to get Lauri Markkanen for that. He averages like 28 points.
Then I won't take him. What I'm saying is, I said he was my ideal guy. Right. So I would, if two players and 3 first-round picks isn't enough to get Lauri Markkanen, which I believe it is, if we're talking about 3 first-round picks, like I said, I don't care about the picks. I care about who's currently on the team. So if 2 players and 3 first, or even 4 first isn't enough to get Lauri Markkanen, then in that case, I don't want him.
Well, what if the Bucks came to you and they offered you that for Giannis, or they said, if you don't take this, we're trading him to the Spurs and he's teaming up with Wemby and Dylan Harper and Stephon
If
Castle.
we were a team
And then you
that,
just know that they turned into the next dynasty because
yeah,
Wemby with
listen,
Giannis would be a complete
if
wrap.
we were the kind of team that had serious finals aspirations, then I would have some qualms about that. But in the case of the 76ers,
Well, I
like,
don't even think like Tyrese Maxey is on the same timeline as VJ Edgecombe. That's what's like weird. And Quentin Grimes might be on the same timeline as Tyrese Maxey, but are you going to re-sign him? And then Jared McCain's like having stunts in his development. And then Paul George and Joel Embiid are on the same timeline, but they also are both injury prone. So it's like you just got like a groupings of all this talent, and they're all kind of on like 4 to 5 to 6 different timelines. I mean, Kyle Lowry's like on the brink of retirement. So it's like we're that's
yeah.
where
So I mean, it sounds like you're making an argument. I mean, not to say that you
that's
actually
kind of like
are,
how
but
the
the
Dallas
things
Mavericks
you're
are having the
currently
same issue.
saying are things that would lead to somebody saying this is a team that you need to, this needs to be a young building team, not necessarily rebuilding, but this is a team that you got
Well, I
to.
definitely don't want to get rid of. Yeah. From what I'm saying, I'm kind of insisting that. I mean, I don't want to get rid of Tyrese Maxey or VJ Edgecombe, obviously. So it's kind of like, we didn't kind of expect to be in the third overall pick spot with Joel Embiid and Paul George contracts on the books, but that's the position that they're in. So it's kind of put them in a weird spell. And then you got Jared McCain, who you hit on, who wasn't expected to be, or that pick slotation wasn't expected to have the potential that he potentially has. So, and then Quentin Grimes, that trade last year when everything was going bad, was like your one bright spot. And then he's like somebody that you kind of, an asset you kind of want to hold on to. And if you do get rid of him, you do want to get something for a return as opposed to just letting him walk. And you're kind of at like at this point where 8.7, this is the last time you're going to be able to have him at this number. But what do you actually do for him? Because he does play a big role. Because you said like earlier, I like Jared McCain a lot, but like Jared McCain couldn't just come in and fill Quentin Grimes' spot because Quentin Grimes like guards the 1, 2, and the 3, and he's 6'5". Jared McCain's not that and is not that defensive player.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then that's an argument to hold on to Quentin Grimes and possibly trade Jared McCain. I mean, of course, when I
Well, I'm
refer to
saying
Jared
like, what
McCain
do you do?
filling
Do you
Grimes'
like?
role, I mean offensively. But
Like what? Do you, like? Would you feel comfortable with them giving a big contract to Quentin Grimes?
yeah, no, I think I would. I mean, assuming that you're not going to stick with Joel Embiid and Paul George long term. Like, if you want to transition into a young and up and coming team with Tyrese Maxey as the player you're building around, then
He's
yeah,
already locked in, obviously, on his deal. Obviously, you
well,
don't want
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, obviously the Tyrese Maxey aspect of what I just said is locked in. But I mean, if you want to say, okay, let's fully just become a young team with Tyrese Maxey as our star player and get rid of the old with Joel Embiid and Paul George, then yeah, you definitely, in my opinion, keep Quentin Grimes long
I don't think
term.
Joel's going. I mean, I think just Paul George will. Maybe they'll try and move on from him, depending on like. I mean, who knows? Like, we don't know like how because VJ Edgecomb's not a scorer right now, and he's kind of very inefficient as a scorer of recent. And he even said that the team already has developed really good scorers, so he's kind of playing his part and remaining aggressive. But we don't know when his like complete progression uptick, how fast he will become an offensive player to the point where they might feel like they're ready to actually, truly compete with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe as their backcourt. And then how they set
That's the
things
thing. That's the thing. It's VJ's rookie year. I don't look
I think
at
Joel Embiid is going to retire a Sixer.
I don't look at VJ's lack of production offensively at the moment as an indication on, what kind of player VJ Edgecombe is going to be in the league. I think him, Maxey, and Grimes can be, an elite trio for years to come with, Grimes as the sixth man off the bench. I think that can be, the nucleus to this hypothetical young and up and coming team that if they decide to go that route. In terms of like what the Sixers should do moving forward, I mean, if you're looking at, what they should do the rest of this year, I think get rid of one or two guys to bring in a competent power forward. In terms
You
of
try to
what to
like,
do,
I mean, you also have to ask yourself if you try to actually compete because you're not going to have Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton hurt every single year at the
Well,
top.
that's what I was gonna get to next. Is then you see how this team how it plays out with this team the rest of the season, and then based off that, you decide what you want to do moving forward. If you think, if it goes very well the rest of the year, and let's say Joel and PG spend more time on the court and they make not like a deep playoff run, but a convincing playoff run that says, run it back next year with a non-rookie VJ Edgecombe and whoever this new power forward is, and maybe they can make a deep playoff run. Then you do that. That's an unlikely outcome. The more likely outcome is this team finishes as like a 7 or 8 seed and get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. And then you decide, okay, it's time to move on from either both Joel and PG or one of them and focus on the young talent moving forward and look to the future. So right now, I think what this team needs to do long term, I think it's up in the air. I think you got to see how they perform throughout the rest of the year and in the playoffs. But as of what they need to do right now, I think they need to make a move to bring in a competent power forward, because I'm so tired of saying it over the past few years, but this team needs rebounding outside of the center position. I've been saying it
Yeah,
every
there's
year the
also
past
like you
3
have to
years
make a
and done
decision too.
nothing about it.
Excuse me, my bad. You also have to figure out what you would do with a guy like Andre Drummond, who you could probably get something for at the trade deadline if you're
I
not
forgot all about Andre Drummond. Wow, yeah.
going to try to compete.
Who do you like better, Drummond or Bona?
Andre Drummond's one of the better like traditional centers in the history of the NBA. I mean, if we're being
I
honest.
know, but I mean in this current moment.
Andre Drummond, because he's like Andre Drummond's really good. Bona's
Yeah.
not there yet. I like Bona. Obviously, he's a part more of the future than Andre Drummond, but I mean, Andre Drummond could honestly do what Andre Drummond does for probably another couple years.
But and it's like I don't disagree with you on Andre Drummond at all, one bit. I just think they have different games where it's like Drummond is obviously the better rebounder, much better rebounder. He's still a very good good defender, but I think Bona like offers you a different style of defense. Like a sort of
Yeah, Bona's
lanky
definitely a
shot
better
blocking
defender,
kind of
but I
defense.
feel
There's
like
like give
also
and take with
people.
each one. But how about Drummond hitting threes this year, man? I mean, he's been like, I remember when he was here, a few years ago. It's like he would occasionally try a three because he was working on that aspect of his game, and like he rarely made them. But he's legitimately hitting threes this year.
Yeah, he can actually get points too offensively. He's just like he knows his role too. That's why I like him, because like we're kind of confused of what the center needs to be asked to do, because we had a talent like Joel Embiid who's able to do a lot of different things, to where a lot of team centers, they don't ask them to do all different types of things, but when you have the right center in there, he can be the number one option. I mean, Kevin Durant's not even the number one option most of the time in Houston. It's Alperen Sengun, who's a really, really, really good big man. And Jokic just got hurt for like 6 to 8 weeks after having one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, and that feels very similar to what happened to Joel Embiid when he put up 70 against Wemby and then got injured. And I think it's so hypocritical that
Well, now I want to talk about that real quickly too, because
yeah, go ahead.
How can dudes be getting defensive player of the year? Because that was on Rudy Gobert, who's like a 3 to 4 time defensive player of the year. He just gets sculled by Jokic every single time they played. It's just like, and then Wemby, who's a freak, Joel gives him that game. Like, I don't know how people can like. It's like the MVP award. Like Stafford, dropped to like a huge, way behind Drake May after that game. And if you look at some of like Myles Garrett, Myles Garrett had a stretch of games this year where he didn't have a sack for 3 straight weeks, and he's about to break the sack record. That's pretty crazy. But like the MVP as a quarterback, I feel like you can't have like a 3 or 4 outlier pick game and be the MVP of the league. Like the MVP of the league doesn't have like one complete absolute shit showing like that. You know what I mean? I feel like defensive players in the NBA like
two
get
things.
buckets dropped on them, and then it's like they're still one of the best defensive players in the league. Like I don't understand.
I will say 2 things about that. One, as far as the NFL aspect of it goes, Cam Newton, 2015, played a game against the Eagles, threw 3 interceptions, but won and went on to win MVP. So that's not like a 4 or 5 interception game like you mentioned, but that was a bad Cam Newton game that they ended up winning, and he went on to win MVP. As far as centers go, I think what it is like you have your elite defensive centers like Wemby and Gobert, who are tall and lanky and play great defense because they play great interior defense because they're able to, reject guys coming into the paint trying to score. But then when you take one of those guys and you put them up against a heavier center like Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, they don't have the strength to guard them in the paint, and so they end up playing a bad game. So I think that's why they're regarded as such great defenders, because they do.
Well, I've also just think there's levels to like how good people are. Like there's some that
look at Dikembe Mutombo, for example. I think he's a great example. He was a tall, lanky center who blocked shots left and right in the paint, but then when he had to go up against Shaq in the final, Shaq just ate him for lunch every time because he didn't have the strength to deal with it.
Shaq would do that to like literally everybody of all time. But that's also Wemby's pretty crazy if you watch him play. Like he really is.
He's insane. He's not.
He does get beat a little bit on defense though, because like he's
too lanky.
He has this thing where you can beat him vertically at what you would think is his most intimidating factor, because he's a little bit slow sometimes and he goes up with the wrong hand to block your shot. Like he'll go up left-handed, and that's instead of going up right-handed, and it's just like sometimes. But he also like freestyles and like does ridiculous things on the other hand as well. But the Spurs.
The one thing I wanted to say about Nikola Jokic is, it's so hypocritical how Jokic is out for 6 to 8 weeks, and everybody's like, oh, well, this rule, about having to play a certain amount of games to win an award is so stupid, when everyone celebrated the new award when they had Joel Embiid in mind. Well, when they had Joel Embiid in mind, they were so happy about this new rule, and now when it's negatively affecting Jokic, everyone's upset. It's so hypocritical.
You also have a tendency to always, whenever like the rival gets brought up, you have to tie it back into like the Joel Embiid or
because there's always a hypocrisy to point out. There's always a hypocrisy.
Yeah, but you also make it look a little bit worse when you have to bring like Josh Allen has to be tied to Jalen Hurts and Joel Embiid.
Well, because it's a great point to bring up that the guy who's getting
but you even also
after
when we
that
just talked
game
about
is the winning quarterback.
Yeah, but you also on the other
light refuse to talk badly about Josh Allen.
But also on the other light, you just talked about when we were the Sixers, how Joel Embiid's not the same player, and Jokic is by far the best player in the league right now. So it's like,
at this current moment in time, yes. But going back to what I mentioned about Joel Embiid getting hurt after putting up that performance against Wemby, Joel Embiid looked like the best player in the league at that point in time. And everyone was happy about the new rule because it meant Joel Embiid couldn't win any awards. But now that it's Nikola Jokic being affected, everyone loves it. I mean, everyone hates it.
Whatever. I don't think anybody's really making those comparisons nowadays. They're in like two different complete stages.
No, I'm not comparing current day Joel Embiid to. I'm not making a player comparison right now. I'm comparing people's reactions to the rule depending on who the player is. That's what I'm comparing.
Well, he doesn't get frequently injured.
That's a fair argument to bring up, but still, my point still remains.
I love Joel Embiid. He's like my favorite player, but I'm just saying that's why because Joel's always injured, and this was like the freak time that Jokic actually got injured after like never.
Yeah, but it goes to an old saying: you reap what you sow.
But let's talk about the Phillies real quickly before we get out of here. JT, what are we doing? What Bryce Harper? Not elite, wearing the shirt, batting cage. Looked like he had a little bit of.
He's starting to get on my nerves. He's starting to get on my nerves. It's like if you're doing that after the 2022 and 2023 season, great. But with the struggles in the playoffs since then, and you haven't stepped up like you did in the other seasons, and with the fan base now growing frustrated that we haven't made a deep playoff run since that disaster in the NLCS in 2023, it's like just shut up and going back to whoever said that in basketball, just shut up and swing the bat. Honestly,
what about have we talked about Matt Strom getting traded?
We haven't. We have not talked about that.
He kind of
No,
dumped him
no,
off.
we did. Didn't we? No,
I
I'm
don't
pretty
think
sure
we
we did
did.
on the last podcast.
I don't know if we did or not, but yeah, he got
I
dumped
think
off
so.
for another lower level reliever. But I mean, he was also starting to become unreliable himself, and that was a contract
Yeah.
that they had to get out of there. So new beginnings. Jose Alvarado accepted that contract too, so I guess they'll have him back. I'm really excited for Duran and Alvarado to be able to come
I
in.
am very excited for Duran Alvarado. I'm excited. I'm not excited about a lot of things next season. I'll tell you the things I am excited about. I'm excited about another year of Schwarbombs. I'm excited about Duran Alvarado and Kirkering because I still love Kirkering. I'm
As much,
excited.
it's not. Have I said
Hold
that?
on, let me finish. Let me
All right,
finish.
well, let me just bring something up real quick because you can't just go on the laundry list every single time we bring up a topic.
There was two more things I was going to mention.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment about how I'm not seen as like the biggest Schwarber um, supporter, but at the end of the day, I actually do like that contract, and I don't think it's a bad contract
No,
because
I think it's a
for
good
somebody
contract.
like him, like for his skill trait of what they need him to do, I feel like it's not going to diminish the way that other skill traits for other players will. Like he's like a true legendary power hitter, so it's like I feel like he'll be able to still do those things at the age of 37.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. But the two other things I'm excited for is the All-Star game and home run derby in Philly, mainly the home run derby. I don't care as much about the All-Star game and the Field of Dreams game. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like excited about, what this team can do next year. My hope is quite low. I'm not excited about any young talent we have because all of our young talent has looked bad, and the rest of the young talent, I don't have the confidence this organization is going to give them the call up. Maybe Otto Kemp. So really, I'm just excited about those guys in the bullpen.
Well, I think
Another year
Crawford's definitely
Schwarber
coming up.
and
I
the
think
big
they
events the Sixers are. I mean, the Sixers, the Phillies are a part of in this upcoming season.
Yeah, we got Adolis Garcia, also somebody that's performed huge on the big stage, so maybe that helps. They try to get presence of like high level players, but this is the first time I feel like they seek somebody that still currently is somewhat in their prime and has had like big moments in the playoffs, maybe being able to contribute. We don't really know what's going on with Castellanos. Would it be a shocker to see Castellanos still on the Phillies to begin the season?
Yes. Yeah, I think it would be. I wouldn't be like, and I wouldn't be
Well, I
all
feel like
the.
they do this every single year where there's like a long dry spell of MLB news, and then we start creeping up into the end of January, and we're like a month away from spring training, and we don't even know what the current situation on certain players is, and then they kind of arise at the very end. So, um, I mean, Ranger, there's no news on Ranger, there's no news on JT. Castellanos, we kind of just know that those guys possibly won't be on the roster. I feel like JT might be the most confident that would be back out of those three. Seems like Ranger Suarez definitely is not going to come back just with some of the contracts they already are giving out to pitchers, but we still haven't also heard anything about an update of what's going on with him. But I think they'll definitely they're going to have somebody step up in the bullpen. That's definitely going to be
Well,
something.
no, I mean, I like our bullpen. Our bullpen is the least of my worries.
No, you still believe in your boy Orion complete.
I still 100% believe in or
I don't
Kirkland.
at all. I think he does that all the time in all the big moments, but we'll see what they do. Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. How do you feel about that?
At this point, I've just accepted that the Dodgers are just going to keep collecting elite talent like Infinity Stones and keep winning World Series
We have
rings.
Pete Alonso out of the Mets, but the Mets also made a trade this offseason. They got Marcus Semien at second base, so I feel like that.
Hey, you said his last name right. You didn't say Seaman this time. By the way, I found out recently that we've been saying Edgecombe this whole time, but I was watching. Yeah, he mentioned his name is actually pronounced Edgecombe. So really, we have
I
Edge.
never say Edgecombe. I don't know. You
I've been
can run
saying
this entire
Edgecombe
podcast back.
because I thought there's no way his last name is Edgecombe.
I mean,
So I've been saying Edgecombe, and then no, it turns out it is Edgecombe.
I'm not. I
But
guess I'm not immature like you.
I
I don't
haven't
really.
yet broke the habit of calling him Edgecombe. But we have Edgecombe and Bona. You know, great last names on the team. You get your Edgecombe, you get your Bona. Once you get Bona, then you get Edgecombe.
I that doesn't even register to my brain when I hear his name. I just think about the third.
It wouldn't register to my name either, to my brain either, if not for Edgecombe. Because it's like Edgecombe. Well, we also got Bona. So you get the Bona, and then you get the Edgecombe.
All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in to episode 125 of the Paisan Sports Podcast. We'll see where the Eagles' seeding ends up after this week of football. The Sixers got a couple games on their slate, so we'll see if they can improve their 16-14 record, get inside that top 4, heading into 2026. Actually, before we get out of here, so this could be our last podcast of 2025. Let's bring up some of our favorite moments from our sports teams. Obviously, the Eagles hoisted the Lombardi Trophy in February. We had the dagger. We had the snow playoff game from the Eagles just in 2025 specifically.
Obviously, really, all you can look at is the playoff games that took.
I mean, it's exciting. The Sixers had a top 3 pick in the draft. Honestly, don't underrate that.
You get that, but I mean, it's other than the Eagles. It's been not good.
Sixers landed the 3rd overall pick in the draft, so that was pretty exciting. We got a player, not the player that we asked for, but a player that we found to.
The Union choked in the
big
playoffs
fans of
once again,
so that was a positive thing. The Phillies won the division,
and the Phillies kept Rob Thompson, which is another tragedy.
Yeah, they just completely ran it back, and that's the last news that we've heard from
I
and then now our star players beefing with the GM.
Yeah, I'm so sick of this fucking Phillies team at this point. But yeah, I mean, to recap 2025, we won the Lombardi. We got the 3rd pick for the Sixers, and that's been it. I mean, not to say like it's been a bad year. I mean, I'll take all the other teams not winning a single game if it means the Eagles hoist the Lombardi. I'm thrilled on 2025 as a whole because of it. But I feel like there's not like a ton of like great memories to look back on. It's the Lombardi.
They don't win another game, says the guy who said that he'd rather the Phillies win the next championship than the Eagles.
Yeah, but that would be my. I would rather that. That was my. I would rather that happen.
If that's the actual question.
But if you said, or alternatively, if that doesn't happen, your only other option is the Eagles win the Super Bowl, but all the other teams don't win a single game. I would say, yeah, I'll also take that.
If you ask me that specific question that I just recited back to you, I would actually say that I want the Sixers to win the next Philadelphia championship just to get it out of the way because they probably have the longest shot.
If you ask me now who I would rather win the next championship, it's not the Phillies because I'm just so frustrated with them. It's like I don't even fucking care at this point. It's the Eagles. At this point, it's the Eagles. Run it back. What I want to see the most is the Eagles win back-to-back. It's a bit greedy. I would go Eagles first, Sixers second.
The Eagles winning it would put like a big onus on you because you would feel obligated for the 3-peat, which may not be realistic at all with the current state of the team, depending on what it takes to win the second.
Listen. I would be thrilled with them just going back-to-back without 3-peating. I don't care about the 3. I mean, I would, and if we end up going back-to-back, I would love a 3-peat, but I'd be thrilled with them just going back-to-back. I mean, going back-to-back would be so substantial that that I would love to see that happen, and that's why I would pick the Eagles to win the next.
You take that over like would you take the Eagles losing in the second round of the playoffs this year if that meant the Sixers won on like a deep playoff run this year with this roster, how talented they are? Because that would be pretty special.
Wait, what round did the Eagles get eliminated in?
They win the first playoff game, they lose in the second round.
And how far did the Sixers make it?
Like, dude, I think the Sixers, like, if things went right and they put themselves in position, they'd actually would have a chance to win the championship with the players on their team.
If you're saying Eagles lose in the second round, the Sixers win the finals, sure, I'll take that.
I don't know, win the finals.
Because that means one of the teams wins a ring. I'll always be happy with a ring no matter where we get it from. So, yeah, I would definitely take that. If you say they get eliminated in the second round and the Sixers make the finals, I still might take that. If it's
Honestly,
a competitive
because
final
that would build
series,
so much
if it's a
momentum for the future
competitive
of the
final
Sixers.
series, I think I'd take that. If it's like a 6 or 7 game series, and there are
Oh, no,
are
I
some
can't take a
great
7-game
moments.
loss. I would take a 6-game loss, but like a 7-game loss is tough because that's like you're right there.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, but thank you guys for tuning into episode 125 of the Paisan Sports Podcast. We'll be back in 2026 for episode 126 of the
Ooh.
Paisan Sports Podcast. See you guys then.